here and there, everywhere, scenes that we once knew, and they all just recall memories of you. How I wish I could forget those happy yesteryears that have brought a rosary of tears. Your face beams in my dreams, spite of all I do. Everything seems to bring memories of you.
Hello, and welcome to the City of Austin's special election for District 4 Candidate Forum. I am Carol Eckelkamp with the League of Women Voters, Austin area. Our league partners with the City of Austin Ethics Review Commission to help you get to know the candidates vying for your vote. As a local chapter of the League of Women Voters, we are a nonpartisan political organization of men and women promoting informed and active civic participation. Today is January 6th, and last year on this date, there was an attack on the U.S. Capitol, an attack on our democracy. You all sit here as candidates for District 4 and are examples of the good things in our democracy. If elected, you will represent the citizens of this district and will have the opportunity to effect change on a local level. This is how our democracy works, so let's get started. Candidates, you will have 1 minute opening statements and 2-minute closing statements and will be given 1 minute to answer the questions. Our timekeeper will hold up a yellow warning card at the 30-second mark and a red card when your time expires. Candidates are asked to refrain from any personal attacks on their opponents. In the event a candidate loses their connection to this forum, you may reconnect and you will be allowed to answer the questions that you missed, time permitting. We will begin in ballot order and rotate so each of you have an opportunity to answer first. We will begin with the 1-minute opening statements. On the ballot, Ms. Rios is listed first but not in attendance at this forum, so Ms. Bunto will have the first question. So let's begin, not the first question, but the intro. So Ms. Bunto, we will begin with you for your 1-minute introduction. You are muted. Please unmute for us.
Thank you. Hi, thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, both of you, for the warm welcome. And is my time starting? Should I go ahead and start?
Yes, ma'am, it has already started.
Oh my goodness, okay. I am not a politician, but I can be very political. I'm a teacher, an artist, and a single parent. I teach full-time at a public high school in District 4. I work at a North Austin restaurant every weekend and pick up extra gigs so I can pay bills and take care of my children. On my free time, I serve our community. I have served as vice president and co-president of the North Austin Civic Association. I serve on the NACA contact planning team. I formed the North Austin Parent Advocacy Group. I serve on the District Advisory Council and the Campus Advisory Council for Navarro Early College High School and Austin Independent School District. I am a moderator and crisis support for the Austin Mutual Aid, an organization that supports the unhoused, and I am looking to support the Thai Association of Central Texas. I want to invite you to join us in engaging in District 4 community members to work together to identify challenges, goals, and continue in pursuit of our unique individual and collective American dream.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And so on the next ballot order would be Ms. Shira. You have 1 minute for your introduction.
Good evening. I'm Melinda Shira. I'm running for Austin City Council, District 4, based on my longtime experience as an advocate for North Austin. I was elected as Vice President and President of the North Austin Civic Association for 7 years, a member for 10. I have spent the 10 years collaborating with APD to address public safety issues, leading numerous beautification efforts, advocating for improved park equipment, and addressing zoning requests on the NACA contact team. I spent a year as a lead organizer for the Austin Community Tree Program, another year supporting Saver Housing for Austin's Repeat Offender Program, and another year bringing residents of District 4 together as a lead organizer for our very first District 4 candidate forum. I led the effort to publicly advocate for a rail that would serve North Lamar, at least to Runberg. I led the effort to increase zoning on North Lamar during the most recent Code Next process while negotiating the removal of increased zoning for district on Runberg Lane. Thank you so much for the League of Women Voters and City of Austin staff.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lavera? Unmute, and it's your 1 minute introduction.
Hello, I am Jade Lavera, born and raised Austinite, and I have lived in District 4 my entire life, where I now raise my 2 children. I'm running to bring the community's voice to the decision-making table at City Hall. Over the past 15 years, I have been an advocate for the people in this city through my current work as community leader in my current role with Women Who Work and various leadership roles in the multifamily housing industry. My experience working with community organizations, developers, and the housing market uniquely qualifies me for this role. I will bring real-world knowledge and experience to City Council. My priorities are housing affordability, public safety, homelessness, supporting neighborhoods, and emergency disaster preparedness. I am your neighborhood candidate. I understand the housing market from the inside out and want to be a part of the solution to our affordability crisis. Additionally, I believe that policymaking and spending that affects the lives of all of Austin residents in the short and long term must be centered by the community's voice and needs. In order to truly achieve this, community education and engagement is vital. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Guzman?
There we go. I'm Monica Guzman, native Austinite and the neighborhood candidate. I have a proven track record of working with our communities. I'm a community organizer who has worked with and supported low-income residents to increase access to a healthier lifestyle and to stop gentrification and displacement in our neighborhoods. I'm a member of the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force and was the chair of the Restore Runberg Revitalization Team. Austin has an incredible precedent of protecting the environment, parks, and green spaces that I strongly support. At the same time, however, many folks living here feel as though they are being left behind, threatened by gentrification and overdevelopment. Renters and homeowners alike are being priced out of the neighborhoods they grew up in. We need to come together as a community to make sure our values and our people are represented in City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vela?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm Chito Vela. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm running for City Council because I want Austin to be a welcoming city for working class people. I want my children to be able to afford to live in the neighborhoods they grew up in. I'm originally from Laredo, Texas. I moved to Austin about 30 years ago to attend UT, like so many others, and I've never left. I'm an immigration and criminal defense attorney, and I've been very active in the community. I was a board chair of the Workers' Defense Project, an immigrant and labor rights organization. I was the president of the Blanchard Elementary PTA, and I was Greg Cassar's appointee to the Austin Planning Commission. So I have years of experience in both state and local government that I will bring to the table as your City Council member for District 4. I humbly ask for your vote, and please go to chitovela.com to find out more information, and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to move into the general questions, and Ms. Bunta, we're going to start with you.
So, Ms. Bunto, if the City of Austin received a $1 million grant to fund public health initiatives for children, what would you advocate to do with that and why?
If the city receives the $1 million grant for children, I would absolutely advocate that we find out from, and if this is going to the entire city of Austin, is to make sure that we are going to receive community input as to what the community needs for their children. But for sure that I know as an educator that a lot of our children need access to health care, need access to dental care. And so all these earmarked dollars that are going to go to our community, I really, really hope that we can get community input. I am going to be a huge proponent of asking for community to speak up, to let us know what their needs are before I actually decide what I want to do with that money for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shira, let's say the City of Austin received a $1 million grant to improve local parks. What would you advocate that they do with that and why?
That is a great question, and I wish that was happening right now. I've spent many years volunteering for beautification projects at our schools, whether it was partnering with the UT Project Day or completing a grant-funded project to add a gaga ball pit to Cook Elementary School. So I am fully supportive of that, and I think that my priority would be to focus first on our community school parks.
Thank you. Ms. Lavera, if the City of Austin received a $1 million grant to create an anti-violence campaign, what would you advocate to do with it and why?
Absolutely. So I would definitely advocate for community policing because it works. I know firsthand that that is a huge problem, especially in District 4 with the highest crime in all of Austin for the last 5 years. And involving the community and the kids and focusing on our next generation is crucial, as well as providing education for vulnerable people in our community, including women and self-defense type of things and how they handle situations, and mental health and stability in emotional well-being to be able to deflect on if they're in a situation of seriousness in crime.
Thank you. Ms. Guzman, if you received a $10 million grant for in the City of Austin, how would you choose to use that across the entirety of the City of Austin? What would you do with it and why?
$10 million grant citywide. I would use it to fund the recommendations put forth by the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force, starting with meaningful community engagement and the equitable reinvestment in the community. Doing so provides opportunities for access to parkland, Green spaces, that's beneficial for early childhood, outdoor learning environment, physical activity, getting natural vitamin D, and the meaningful community engagement makes it easier for citizens to access the city council, boards, commissions. We accommodate them, make it language accessible, digitally inclusive. And there are other programs, especially Austin Public Health. They are underfunded and at times, unfortunately, unrecognized for the work they do, especially in the past 2 years in light of the pandemic. They need better pay, and we also need to be contributing to AISD, paying for the parent support specialists. They are the frontliners for the families.
Thank you. Mr. Vela, if Austin received a $1 million grant to create an anti-violence campaign, what would you advocate to do with it and why?
I would invest it in youth programs. I find that opportunities for recreation, for learning, basketball leagues, mentoring programs, educational programs, swimming, those kinds of activities, when you engage children in meaningful recreational opportunities, that often steers them into a more positive type of environment, as opposed to kids who don't have those opportunities and who are just, for example, like, in an apartment complex without access to recreation, without access to enjoyment, opportunities to, enjoy and blow off steam and learn. So I would invest that in our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move over into city services. And Ms. Shira, you will have the opportunity to go first on this. And these are citywide and possibly one for District 4, but think citywide. The aging roads and bridges are challenges for many cities. As Austin has experienced explosive growth in the last decade, do you believe the city has done a good job of keeping up with the demands on our aging roads and bridges? Why or why not?
I would say that I have the most experience with District 4, and I have seen a lot of infrastructure. I have seen, I'd say, the most infrastructure improvements in District 4, and, I've seen the most improvements in District 4 for infrastructure. I guess a part of that, my concern is our utility infrastructure problems and ensuring that we really focus on diversifying our energy sources and focusing on renewable energy.
Thank you. Ms. Lavera, I'm going to ask you that same question on the aging, our aging infrastructure. And do you think the city has done a good job on keeping up with the demands on our aging roads and bridges? Why or why not?
Yes, thank you. I do not feel that we have done a good job in keeping up with the aging roads and infrastructure in general. I've seen this in the business world of, a small company that grows too quickly, and the systems and the operations do not evolve with them. And I see that in the city heavily, especially in infrastructure. With all of the rapid development that has happened, the infrastructure has not been paid attention to in the long term, and we are suffering the consequences of them later, or now and later to come. And I feel that there is a strong need to invest further and really do an analysis of targeting and addressing these infrastructure issues and the roads and sidewalks that we have to improve and have the best that we can for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Guzman, based on the 2021 winter storm experience, what do you believe the city's top priorities should be to prepare for any future experiences like that?
The city's top priority should be what they heard from the community. Many residents, especially in the north and southern part of the Eastern Crescent, which are zip codes 4445, 52, 53, and 58, They spoke up, they came together. I know that both city and AISD leadership has heard them. They need to identify locations to use as neighborhood centers and resilience shelters, both in climate stressor and climate-inducing threatening weather, but also when we're not dealing with that. Use them as community places, places for training. But back to the winter storm, is they need to make sure, again, give money to AISD for the parent support specialists. That's who the families turn to first. They are underpaid, and we also need to make sure Austin Public Health and other offices, sustainability, are receiving sufficient funding so they can make programs that are needed for the community.
Thank you. Mr. Vela, we're going to school. What grade would you give the City of Austin for its upkeep of the municipal water supply in the face of exponential growth, including our purification systems, sewers, and drainage? On what do you base this grade, and how can Austin improve it?
That's a very good question. I would say a B. The capacity of the system has increased with the investment in the water treatment plant 4, I believe. But Austin's drainage still has room to improve. We still have flooding problems in the city that continue to pop up during our very heavy thunderstorm season. And the other issue with water that I would point to and that I would like to deal with is our per capita water consumption here in Austin is higher than it should be. Many years ago, for example, San Antonio really invested, and El Paso also have really invested in reducing lawn watering and really trying to get their per capita water consumption down. I think that is what we need to do in Austin so we can reduce our water usage, especially given the droughts and issues that we've seen with climate change.
Thank you. Mix Bunto, in terms of public safety, what city services do District 4 residents most need, and what are your plans for addressing this need?
Thank you. In terms of public safety, for District 4, in hearing feedback from the community, in hearing from APD, Austin Police Department, I think that what we're needing is a combination of services. I can't just say that we need, in terms of public safety, just APD police officers to be able to patrol. But I would like to think that with a combination of mental health officers, of wraparound support services, so that EMS and the fire department and APD have the support that they need to fully, adequately serve and protect our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Shira. How do you think your experience and background prepares you to participate in decision-making about the city's large commercial purchases as housing solutions for individuals experiencing homelessness?
My experience that I think really differs from other candidates is just how much time I've spent bringing people together and getting community feedback, because I do think that would be important as far as determining the best location. Does that location provides the nearby services that may be needed, and just making sure that there's community support. I would also say, I think that's good.
Thank you. Ms. Lavera, do you think buying hotels is an efficient, effective strategy to address homelessness, and why or why not?
I do not feel that it is effective because it does not address all of the issues that cause homelessness. Our homeless population is diverse as well, and I see this from a property management standpoint. And I have managed apartments, and it seems a little bit disastrous in managing those hotels for housing, and especially with mental health, with substance abuse, and other factors that the homelessness are experiencing. It's not the solution. We need to provide jobs. We need to provide counseling. We need to provide resources, education, and substantial help to bring the homeless population out of homelessness as much as possible.
Thank you. Ms. Guzman, what grade would you give the city's programs to alleviate homelessness, and why?
I would give them a B, maybe a B minus. The HEAL policy was great, but it really wasn't enough. Just like purchasing the hotels, it's not a solution. It is an important step. At least it gets them off the street, which is important. But there needs to be more funding for social services. There needs to be money available for contracts between the city, Austin Public Health, and nonprofit organizations that provide services for the homeless. There needs to make sure that there is true living wages, that there is housing that is accessible to them, programs, wraparound services at those places. There's permanent supportive housing, there's rapid housing, there's two main ways to get someone housed, but it's a ranking situation. It requires a coordinated assessment, and then you are ranked based on need. Unfortunately, there's not enough money or locations to get all of them housed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vela, what additional programs, if any, are needed to alleviate homelessness, and what ideas do you have to pay for any of those additional services?
I'm happy that the city and the county have come together to invest a little more than $200 million in housing for the homeless over the next couple of years, and there are about 2,000 to 3,000 units of housing for homeless individuals in the pipeline. That's an important first step, and it's going to be an excellent move forward. I do think that the city's policy of the hotel purchases is a good one. Before we can address a lot of the more complex issues, mental health issues, drug addiction issues, trauma that people on the streets are dealing with, they have to have a home. It's difficult to provide services consistently to someone who does not have an address. We have to give them a fixed location before we can address a lot of those other issues.
Thank you. Mix Bunto, should there be private and public partnerships to provide housing and services to people who have been living in homelessness? And how would you like to see this issue addressed?
I think that the more the merrier. I do not see why we couldn't have private and public entities work together to help address this pressing concern that I know my friends are experiencing. I do what I can in my work to support the unhoused, but it's not enough for me or anybody, any of us in this room to be able to do this work. And so if we can work together to find solutions together, which I know we have this capacity in 21st century Austin with all the technologies and advancements that we have and all the money that we see coming into the city. $2 million is not enough. Let's bring more money into how we can solve not a problem, but how we can support our friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into the code, our code system and land use. And we'll start with Ms. Lovera. Ms. Lovera, the increasing density has become the new mantra in housing. What is the best balance between increasing density and protecting the character and identity of our neighborhoods?
Yes, thank you. So in this, we need to be mindful whenever there are upzoning or rezoning situations or developments being approved, consideration for not just the short-term immediate gains, but the long-term effects need to be analyzed and truly looked at and considered before the decision is made. Bringing the community in is crucial in this step, and it will require that we actually listen to hear what is needed. And whenever, if there is some displacement that is needed, that there is some support for those residents to be able to have. I do not feel that simply adding more housing at market rate is going to address our affordability issue, and it's also not going to protect our neighborhoods, which is the heart of Austin, and we should protect that in order to maintain the reason that we have so many people here in our growing population.
Thank you. Ms. Guzman, in District 4, what do you believe is the most important zoning challenge for businesses, and how do you propose to address them?
That's a good question. I think it's the small businesses, part of what makes District 4 unique, especially the northern area, Runberg. We have small businesses, cultural, the mom and pop type, and when they're just renting space, like in a strip center, and the owner decides to sell, they face the potential of being displaced or unfortunately shut down. I know there is an example of that in the southern part of District 4 in Windsor Village. When you come in, they buy it out, rezone it. What's important is to talk to the business owners, work with them. If they're not able to stay in there, it's not part of the plans, then help them relocate. Help them stay a vibrant part of the community. That is part of what was done over in NACA, the North Austin Civic Association, with Caritas is doing housing, and they helped with businesses relocating. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vela, if you could change one thing in Austin's existing code, what would it be and why?
So right now, I would say the most important thing we could do would be to build housing along our recently approved light rail lines. There's going to be a light rail line going up North Lamar, down Guadalupe, and then over on Riverside to the airport. And building housing and the city investing in public housing along the light rail corridor allows residents that are adjacent to that corridor to hopefully maybe go from a two-car family to a one-car family, or potentially even not drive and just use the light rail. So that would help promote affordability because your transportation costs would be less. It would protect the environment because there would be less emissions. And it could also start to turn, especially North Lamar, into a beautiful boulevard, a beautiful, a vibrant, multi-use boulevard with sidewalks and bike lanes. But we need to have the housing along the line to make that happen.
Thank you. Mix Bunto, in District 4, what do you believe is the most important zoning challenge for businesses, and how do you propose to address them?
In District 4, the most challenging zoning proposal for businesses would be that they have to make sure that they're building with watershed protection in mind. And I think I want to say that a lot of what we've that the developers have inherited was built out prior to the adoption of the watershed protection. And so I think looking at our zoning policies, looking at rezoning requests. And as people want to develop, we have to keep in mind our environment. That is so important to not just our earth, our planet, and its well-being, but to the citizens of District 4, because it will absolutely affect our water quality and thereby our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shira, how should the city balance land development policies with anti-displacement programs and still accommodate growth and affordability?
So many districts have opposed density, and maybe 10 years ago I would have agreed with them. We were already one of the most dense neighborhood districts. I soon realized, though, that District 4 could and should be a leader on increasing density in targeted locations. On the other hand, I also think that we need to create a multifamily / affordable housing boards and commission so that we can analyze market availability and cost, occupancy rates, anti-displacement, utility costs, utility infrastructure problems for multifamily housing, and as well find educational opportunities for renters and property managers.
Thank you. This last question, I believe, is going to hit on the topic of transportation. And we'll start with Ms. Guzman. Austin voters approved several bond issues in the previous 5 years to improve sidewalks, streets, traffic signalization, safe routes to schools or for schools, urban trails, as well as hike, bike, pedestrian trails and lanes. What is your assessment of the improvements that have been made or planned in District 4?
It's great to see where the sidewalks have been finally laid out or repaired, but they're not done yet. It's great to see the new pedestrian hybrid beacons, and pedestrian crosswalks. But Lamar is a pretty long stretch, and there's still a lot of space between those lights and beacons. We need more of those. We still have people, families, students, even the mobility challenged and impaired, crossing the street in the middle of traffic and unprotected with those measures. So the city needs to work with TxDOT, since the state still owns that part of Lamar, to see about getting more safety measures put in place. We need to work on Vision Zero. I believe that's probably the most dangerous part of the district, is where North Lamar is at, especially in I-35.
Thank you. Mr. Vela. There are considerable public transportation improvements in District 4 under the Project Connect funding. What is your assessment of the most significant benefits to the district, and do you have any specific concerns about how it's going to be implemented?
Not to repeat myself, but the implementation, right now, the Rundberg-Rutland area is one of the highest transit-using neighborhoods in the city. So when the light rail line is built there, it's going to have a lot of riders ready to go, wanting to use a quicker, safer, smoother transit to downtown. And we need to invest in the sidewalk infrastructure, the bicycle infrastructure, to make sure that people have access to the light rail line, to make sure that they're able to get there and move about easily from their homes, from their businesses to the public transit. Again, I think that's going to be the most significant transportation investment for District 4.
Thank you. Ms. Bunto, what do you believe are the most important actions that the City Council can take to meet the transportation needs of a rapidly growing city like Austin?
I am in full support of Project Connect or any other future proposals to have, as we're hearing about light rail and whatnot. I am going to bring us back to making sure that we're developing these things, these projects with the environment in mind, with our community in mind. And I am frankly concerned about a few of the cap and stitch proposals that the city is currently considering. I am concerned about this corridor that I keep hearing about, that we're going to build transportation for the community and create opportunities for business and housing. But I I am not sure how directly this will improve transportation within District 4 and beyond. I started taking the bus, and it's not easy.
Thank you. Ms. Shara, we've mentioned Project Connect and would like to hear your assessment of the most significant benefits and if you have any specific concerns about its implementation.
I was definitely concerned with Project Connect at first because it was going to end at the North Lamar Transit Center and basically would not serve North Lamar north of 183. After publicly advocating that it would go and serve at least to Runberg, a second stage was added and to Tech Ridge. But that is the second stage. So I do think that it's going to be really important for a District 4 voice and the community to ensure that that happens. If we're paying for the rail, we want it to serve District 4 and along North Lamar, north of the North Lamar Transit Center.
Thank you. Ms. Lavera, as we mentioned earlier, Austin voters approved several bond issues in the previous 5 years to make improvements in sidewalks, streets, signalization, safe routes to schools, etc. What's your assessment of the implementation of the improvements that have been made or are planned in District 4?
Yes, so with the implementation of this, it's very important that we have a detailed and conscious review and plan for environmental factors. The projects will result in more concrete, raising our heats even more, and a focus on green infrastructure is crucial to a healthy Austin in the future. Trees, innovative green spaces, added efforts to preserve our trees that are currently in existence, our medium and large heritage trees as well, and implementation, conscious consideration for the impact to local businesses by way of eminent domain is also a concern for me. Thank you.
We have some extra time. We're going to go through a set of questions, and we'd like you all, if you would, we're going to have 2 questions, and this is on public safety and our police. And we're going to start with Mr. Vela. On the continuum from over-policed to ignored, where do you put District 4? If you believe changes are needed, what are they?
From over-policed to ignored, I would say there's potentially a little bit of both that is going on in District 4 right now. On the one hand, we have police responding to situations that I don't think that they're the best fit to respond to. For example, as a criminal defense attorney, I've handled many cases involving family violence or people that are in mental health crisis who their family members call for a police officer and or they call 911, but they don't want a police officer. They want somebody that can respond to somebody in mental health crisis. And I hear the 911 calls and they're saying, we don't want a police officer, we want to, but they send a police officer because that's the only option that there is. And sometimes that can aggravate a situation. So in certain ways, we need the police to step back from certain situations, but in terms of violent crimes and burglaries and those kinds of things, we need the police to be engaged and helpful.
Thank you. Mix Bunto, same question. On the continuum from over-policed to ignored, where do you put District 4? And if you believe changes are needed, what are they?
I would say that District 4, on the continuum from being over-policed to ignored, is not unique to District 4. I have been fortunate enough to participate in the groundwater analysis of institutional racism workshops held in conjunction with APD and Joyce James Consulting. And in hearing the humanity from the police officers, they need support. Defunding them abruptly without any plan does a disservice to them in their efforts to serve our community, and disserves our community needs in the most.
Thank you. Ms. Shira, let's continue on. Where do you put, on that continuum, from over-policed to ignored, where do you put District 4?
I definitely lean towards ignored. Our nearby convenience stores are robbed often at gunpoint. People at the convenience store are sometimes robbed and often on the streets as well. And many of those people are from the immigrant community. I was canvassing and met an elderly woman who's getting ready to celebrate her 60th birthday, or 60th wedding anniversary, and she told me that her purse was snatched at HEB. Our grocery stores should be safe. There are very few gas stations where the employees are even allowed to come out from behind the counter, and so they're not monitoring the pumps or the grounds. It's hard to even find a gas station that does have the security tape on the pumps to prevent credit card fraud. So, ignored.
Ignored. Thank you. Ms. Lavera, over-policed to ignored, where do you put District 4 on that continuum?
Absolutely ignored. We have the highest crime in all of Austin in District 4 and have for the last 5 years. We have always been underserved in my entire life living here. I've recognized that. As I mentioned, I believe in community policing because it works. I'm here to be a part of the solution and common sense rehabilitation of the police force, along with modifications of the police contract and consistent accountability and efficiency. We need to work with the community and neighborhoods to rebuild the trust and connection between police, public servants, and residents. We need our police. I propose exploring solutions similar to Restore Rumberg, however, with plans to have ongoing efforts that maintain that in the long term so that we can maintain the progress that's made and reinforce the changes to stay.
Thank you. Ms. Guzman, over-policed or ignored, and what changes are needed?
Both. There are some areas, as Mr. Vella was saying, that people are being criminalized, they're being arrested for small things, and there are areas that are in dire need of police presence, specifically the Georgian Drive Powell Lane intersection. There's a high level of prostitution and an open-air drug market. During Restore Runberg, there was an increased presence. It was considered a hotspot, and activity did start to diminish. But once the grant ended, because there was no continuation, no transition, you've seen an increase in that. And that is very alarming to the surrounding residents and the community at large. So we do need increased police presence where there is ongoing crime. When people have been harmed, they've been assaulted, they've been robbed. But when someone does something minor, especially when it's a person of color, that raises a red flag about the need for the police department to basically address institutionalized racism. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we're going to give you our 2 minutes on our closing statements. And Ms. Guzman, we are going to start with you. It's okay. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I am seeking this office to continue my work with the community, lift the voices of District 4 residents to ensure they have a voice at City Hall. I have 10 years, more than 10 years, community organizing experience, 5 years or more supporting policies reflecting the needs and expertise of the residents. I am part of the community efforts, working with residents addressing needs we face coming up in District 4 and other vulnerable communities in the Eastern Crescent. My platform is social justice reform, neighborhood stability, and fighting climate change. I am your neighborhood candidate, and I have been endorsed by the Austin Chronicle. My website is Monica4D4, MONICAD4.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vela.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a pleasure. I come as a candidate, and I would like to highlight my experience in state and local government. I've been working in state and local government for decades now. I've been employed in the city. I've been on the Austin Planning Commission. I was a general counsel to a state representative in the Texas House, and I'm the most experienced candidate, and I'll be ready to fight for District 4 from day one. I've been endorsed by the outgoing council member, Greg Sar, the Mayor Adler, Council Member Vanessa Fuentes, Council Member Natasha Harper Madison, District Attorney Jose Garza, and numerous other labor unions and progressive organizations. I've also been endorsed by the Austin Chronicle. My priorities as a council member will be building more housing in Austin, both public and private, to address the housing crisis that we're confronting right now. Rents are increasing by, we hear reports of $300, $400 a month increases for apartments. We see our housing prices, our average housing price is over $500,000 for a home in Austin. That's unacceptable. It's forcing people out of Austin, and that has to stop. Austin is a beautiful city, and we need opportunities for our working class residents to live within the city and enjoy the cultural amenities, the opportunities that Austin provides. I want to invest in our transportation network by creating transportation options, not just for cars, but also for walking, for biking, for transit. And I want to continue to advocate for criminal justice reform, not just the arresting, but supporting people so that they come out of a criminal situation.
Thank you. Mix Bunto, you have 2 minutes for your closing.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and City of Austin for hosting this candidate forum. I am honored to be here with all my fellow candidates. Jade, always delight to see you, and Melinda, you're down there somewhere, and Monica and Chito. So I want to continue to serve District 4. I have done a lot of work in the community to serve District 4. If I am elected to serve on City Council for District 4, I would be addressing topics that are at the forefront of District 4 community members, but I would say that also across the city. Housing affordability is a huge concern. I am personally experiencing it right now. Living wage and employment. I am not talking minimum wage. I want to demand a living wage. Safety policing. I hear that so much from my neighbors, Georgian Acres. I've spoke to a community member that have done so much work, but at the end of the day, we don't know what else we can do. But we need support from city governance, from our leaders. Development, mobility, healthcare, wellness, watershed, environment, education, career development. If elected, we will be the first non-binary and Asian American to serve City Council for District 4. I am of the people and for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shira.
I have the most experience bringing people together to discuss all issues of District 4 and ensuring best outcomes. To sum up my action items as City Council member, I want to advocate for affordable housing on our future rail lines. I will implement a task force on a potential multifamily affordable housing board or commission to address what we need to understand for our renters and affordable housing. I will support Housing First initiatives. I will collaborate with APD to address public safety issues and better understand their needs versus our public safety needs. I will create a plan to inventory all abandoned vehicles and return them to their owner. There is much investment needed in our combined community school parks, which I will prioritize and support. It's important to diversify our energy sources with renewable energy. These costs will eventually be cheaper and prevent inflated for-profit costs of energy. I want to support the creation of an open-source multilingual communication platform to continue my motivation of supporting and educating the community, as well as soliciting feedback and needs. I have always given back to the community in the past 10 years, which comes from a motivation of supporting democracy and living in a community that we can all enjoy in our everyday lives. It was a no-brainer for me to pledge to donate 10% of my council income to effective nonprofits or schools for District 4 efforts. I truly appreciate your support and would appreciate your vote. Please visit melinda4austin.com to learn more. And I truly thank the League of Women Voters. I look at the guide for every election and always enjoy working with City of Austin staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Lavera.
Yes, thank you. Change is needed for long-term stability in Austin. I've seen and experienced firsthand how little attention our district is given. We've always been underserved and underinvested. District 4 deserves a full piece of the attention and financial pie. I intend to bring that attention spotlight to District 4, and while I will directly represent District 4, I will have a vote and say in all of Austin, and that's very important to remember. I want to find solutions to the missing infrastructure in our roads, flooding, crime, public safety, affordable housing, and emergency preparedness. And most of all, I want to focus on the diverse neighborhoods in our district. I also will champion creating a resident communications department within the city and identify specific and relatively simple operational and systematic adjustments that would make a big difference in how the city interacts with residents and transparency and communication. And will also likely increase employee satisfaction as well. I am a rational, considerate, and common sense fact-focused leader. I'm a natural community builder, and community inclusion and representation is very important to me. I have overall high-level business experience and understand operations, budget writing, strategy planning, identifying risk and benefits, customer service, and employee retention and satisfaction, which is lacking in city staff and operations overall. I am your neighborhood candidate and your community candidate. I encourage everyone to support and learn more at jadefораustin.com, FOR, and on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Jade for Austin. Thank you for having me today. I sincerely hope to have your vote, and thank you for the League of Women Voters and the Austin City staff here as well for hosting this. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, candidates, for being with us and for your sincerity in answering the questions tonight. I'd like to address the audience, wherever you're listening from. In my intro tonight, I told these candidates that they have an opportunity to affect change, but it's you, the voters of District 4, who hold that power in our democracy. You have the privilege to elect a representative and then the obligation to hold them accountable once they're in office. Active participation is what we do as a league and what we encourage from each of you. Our nonpartisan voters guide for this special election will be available online at www.lwvaustin.org. That's www.lwvaustin.org. Early voting begins Monday, January the 10th, and ends January 21st. Election Day is January 25th, 2022. We appreciate your attention from wherever you are listening and watching, and please be a part of this great democracy and vote. And we have a couple of minutes, and I wanted to go over, this is a different election, and so there'll be less polling places, and I wanted to go over with you, the early voting polling places are at the Chinatown Center on North Lamar, the City of Austin Permitting and Development, here, the new building at Wilhelmina Delco Drive, the Gus Garcia Recreation Center on East Runberg. Those are the 3 early voting locations. On Election Day, we have Sawyer Hall on East 51st, the Gus Garcia Recreation Center on East Runberg, the City of Austin Permitting and Development Offices on Wilhelmina Delco Drive, the Virginia Brown Recreation Center on Blessing Avenue, the Chinatown Center on North Lamar, the Juan Navarro High School on Peyton Gen Road, and the YMCA North Austin at 1000 West Runberg Lane. So we have there'll be 7 polling locations on Election Day, but there's only 3 polling locations on early voting. And again, if you need more information, you can go to the candidates' websites, or you can go to the www.lwvaustin.org, and we'll have those posted for you. Again, we want to thank you very much in closing this evening, and please, all of you be a part of this democracy that we so love, and exert your vote for these candidates. Do it vigorously. Get all of your friends, help people get to the polls, and thank you again for your participation tonight.